We asked Don Higgins, Dan Johnson, and Beau Martonik, would you take a frontal shot on a whitetail? Hear what they have to say. Let us know in the comments below on what your thought is on this topic. Here we go. Will you take a frontal shot on a whitetail with a bow and arrow?
Absolutely not.
Why is that?
It's just a low odds shot. It's a terrible shot. I learned a long time ago that you take good ethical shots or you don't shoot at all. The bucks I'm hunting are so rare. The last thing I want to do is wound and lose one. I don't want this to sound arrogant, but I feel confident in my hunting skill that if I get him in and I don't get a good ethical shot, that I'll be able to get him in again at some point and get that shot. And the first 200-inch buck I shot was a perfect example. I had that buck in 3 different times to 3 different tree stands and did not have an ethical shot. The first time he was head on, a frontal shot, about 30 yards. The second day I seen him, he was about 20 yards in thick brush that I didn't dare try to thread an arrow through. The third time he was broadside, but he was about 80 yards, which is out of my shooting range. So 3 times I passed a shot at that deer that I considered unethical shots. And finally, on the 4th time, I had a 20-yard broadside shot and made good on it, and he didn't go 50 yards, and he was done. I would just rather the buck get away than me to wound him and lose him.
Do you remember the last deer you wounded and lost?
I don't.
Or missed?
I can't even remember. I'm probably one of the worst archery shots that you're ever going to interview. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can shoot. But I'm not one of these guys that's going to be driving tacks at 50 yards. But I feel very confident that I can get my target buck within 20 yards. And my average shot on these bucks on this wall, if I just go down the list here, the first 200-incher, he was about 20 yards. Trump up there, he was 12 yards. Mel here was 7 yards. Smokey was 25 yards. And Joey was about 12 yards. So the longest of these was 25 yards, and we got a 7 and a couple 12-yard shots. I think a lot of guys try to, instead of honing their hunting skills, they try to buy equipment, and they try to make up for their lack of hunting skills with equipment. And I don't mean that as a slam on anybody, but, you know, I can't even remember last time I lost a deer, any deer. I mean, it's been decades. Now that I say that, I probably jinxed myself, and this year it's going to happen. But
knock on wood there. Yeah.
If you get them close and you got the good angle,
12 yards with I mean, I'd like that shot anytime. Yeah.
I don't care what other people think. I will shoot a deer head on. If don't get me wrong, I'm not taking a full frontal shot at 40 yards. Okay. I will take a quartering shot. I will take a fairly aggressive quartering shot or a fairly aggressive shot. I'm very confident in my equipment, and I know that my arrow weight mixed with my draw length and my 70 pounds that I shoot, that arrow is gonna do a lot of damage, even if it's, let's just say, a little bit back on a hard quartering away shot. Or this last year, I hit a deer. It was a hard quartering toward shot. It was just a hair back. I hit liver, guts came out the other end, found it. And then my buck this year during the rut was a 10-yard full frontal shot. His head was up. He was relaxed. I buried that arrow like 15 inches into him, and he took 2 hops and fell over dead. So I've done this before. I'm confident with those shots, so I continue to take those shots.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's having confidence in your setup and knowing your setup, knowing that you have the right amount of momentum to achieve that penetration that you need on those more aggressive shot opportunities.
So I think the frontal shot on a whitetail is an extremely lethal shot in the right situation. I will not take a frontal out of a tree or from any sort of angle, but off the ground, I think a frontal shot is as lethal, if not more lethal than even a traditional broadside shot. But there's a lot of caveats that come with that. One, you have to be very confident in your shooting because there is a smaller window to be able to hit. And 2, because of that, I want to be close. So I'm looking at 20 yards and in really from where I will take that shot. You get out 30 yards and beyond, I don't feel confident enough to, there's just a lot of room for error when you start getting out a little bit further. But really that spot in there where you're able to be able to shoot that frontal at, if you get into that cavity, you're going to run the whole way through all the organs, into the guts, all the way out. And even I learned that specifically from my dad, who's probably killed more frontal on the ground than broadside. And I'd, go with the track jobs with them, and they usually don't go very far. And arrows sticking out the back leg, like they have a good, fixed broadhead that's going to travel the whole way through there. And I guess that's another point I'll bring up is, for those types of situations, I'm not like 110% fixed broadheads all the time. I killed my buck this past year with an expandable, but I have both in my quiver. They both shoot the same. And if I'm hunting on the ground, there's always going to be a fixed on for some of those different angles. I just feel more confident that the expandable is not going to slip and angle or run the side of the body or something. I want something that's just going to punch through and get the whole way through that body cavity.